Ireland 3, Gibraltar 0. Ireland finally get their first win of the Euro 2024 qualifying group, joined by McDonnell and Aidan Fitzmaurice. Aidan, starting with you, thoughts on the game?
First half, I don't really want to see again. Second half was a bit better. Got the win, got the clean sheet. So I think if it had finished in 0, clearly we're into meltdown scenario. So got the win. The positives there: Mikey Johnson looking good, Adam Eady getting his first goal, Evan Ferguson's first competitive goal. They're the pluses. Just try and forget how awful the first half was.
Dan, yourself, it was getting nervy in that first half.
Yeah, I mean, I think the big thing was obviously the tactical switch at half time and change into the back four and the 4-3-3. And I was like writing about this in my report. It's a really strange thing for Stephen Kenny when you think about it. He's come into the job that he's wanted to do his whole life. He got the job on the basis of being like a 4-3-3 man or a wingers man. And yet in the first half of this game, he's locked into some kind of loyalty to this system that he probably didn't even like at one point in his life, or didn't nearly consider as a real option until he got the job and necessity. And now look, it's worked well as a system defensively against teams, and it probably suits personnel like centre halves in a lot of ways, and probably will be effective enough in September, you would think. But I mean, it just showed in these games like this. You need to have that flexibility to be able to switch, and Ireland did it quite well eventually.
Dan, Mikey Johnson added real spark to things they're badly needed.
Yeah, well, look, I mean, when he was recruited, Stephen Kenny's point was that they didn't have anyone like him in the squad, really, like a winger who goes past people, and he almost mentioned that as a reason for having to play wing backs because they don't really have wingers. That's what he does. I mean, he takes players on, he goes past them, even just his movement. But it was Gibraltar, so you have to obviously have that in mind. But again, down the line, can Ireland switch their system to bring Michael Johnson into games as a sub? They should be able to do that at a stage of the revolution, yes.
Aidan, first competitive goal for Evan Ferguson, double the scoring, and Adam Eada's first Ireland goal, long time coming for him as well.
Yeah, I think Aidan, you just feared from at some stage when he was on that run and not scoring, and clearly the obvious one was John Aldridge, 20 games without a goal, and Aidan, I think that was 16th, so he got it. He's a player, he needs a reset now. I mean, Kenny really, I think the players that Stephen Kenny wanted to build a team around, there's a lot of them, but Ida was one that Kenny just treats him like a son, really, in terms of his passion and his belief in Ida. He probably felt let down with Ida's performance in Athens on Friday. It wasn't good, and from anybody's point of view, probably wasn't good selection. Wasn't good an effort from Ida the night to forget. So I think just that Ida's had a difficult season. He hasn't played much, he hasn't scored much, but really bad season at club level, bad at international level. Let him have a break and come back, maybe even get a move in the summer. It looks like Badeli is going to leave Norwich. Maybe if the mindset might keep Ida, hopefully he'll be in a lot better shape come back in September.
Dan, we knew coming into this game that Gibraltar have lost every Euro qualifier they've ever played in previously, so the result probably foregone conclusion. But how much will this ease the pressure on Stephen Kenny that has been building the last few days?
I don't know if it eases the pressure. I mean, I suppose the nuclear button might have been pressed if Ireland had failed to win the game. I think that's fair to say. That threat, I don't think that realistically exists at this point. There could be new people in the FAI who still might feel like rolling the dice in some way, but I'd be surprised. I think you've committed to giving someone the campaign. I think I would imagine Stephen Kenny will get a crack at September and see how that goes. But like it's clear, that he's damaged badly after Friday, and you're sort of in that territory of sort of needing some sort of Hail Mary play, something remarkable to happen in September against France and Holland. And I suppose once you ride the storm of the emotion of Friday and you get through tonight, people will take a breath or whatever, and you go back to it September, and it's do or die stuff. It's a shame that Ireland are there this early in the campaign, but let's be honest, that's where they are.
And Aidan, just briefly, France beating Greece 1-0 as well. Good for us in the group, clutching straws possibly, but a good result in terms for our Irish perspective.
I think that's what everyone was really. Look, let France win the group. That was the assumption. I think the assumption was that Holland might give them a run for the money. Holland don't look that great. They really look quite vulnerable. Again, it's typical. Don't like to be make assumptions about nations, but it just seems to be a typically Dutch camp, not particularly happy. So let France keep winning, let everyone drop points. The problem is, Dan touched on it there, we do need big wins. We need to beat Greece at home. We need to beat Holland home and away. Possibly need to win in Paris. This team have been very short on big wins. They've had performances in games away to Portugal where they lost, at home to Serbia where they drew, at home to Portugal where they drew. But winning those games is going to be very, very tough. Beating Gibraltar 3-0 is one thing. Beating Holland home and away and beating Greece at home is another thing. But it's a bit more positive. As Dan said, we have pressed the nuclear button. Stephen Kenny is manager for the time being. That doubleheader in September now will define it. Paris and then Holland in Dublin.
Yeah, it certainly doesn't get any easier for Stephen Kenny and his side. That's great, lads. Thanks for joining me, and we'll chat again soon.